American workers and American taxpayers have been taken advantage of for multi-generation, for decades. And it's time for somebody to stand up and put us first and put the country first and do what's best for the country, not what's best for the politicians.
Even if you as a farmer suffer.
That's right.
I mean, some people would hear that and be quite surprised that you're prepared to put your livelihood, your family's livelihood, on the line for the sake of politics.
Well, that's my duty as for being the head of my household. I've got to do what I got to do, what's going to be better for the future, better for the kids. It's not about today, it's about the long term. The long game is where the rewards are going to be.
It's not good for anybody.
Cambridge farmer Doug Fuller has been in the business almost 5 decades. He's tiring of the tariff talk, and his solution to make things right is simple. Best case scenario for this year?
That we never have to talk about tariffs again. Free trade is the answer.
1 in every 4 rows of soybeans in every field in the entire United States of America has to go abroad. China is the largest importer of soybeans in the world. They import 61% of the world's market. Last year, we sent around $12 billion, I think $14 billion worth of soybeans the year before. For the first time in 20 years, China's bought 0 soybeans and 0 new crop corn out of this country.
0?
So we went from 12 billion to 0.
Where are they buying the soybeans?
Brazil.
Right now, we're in a very dire situation. September's upon us, harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field.
What's up, everyone? It's been a minute since my last upload, and I know some of you noticed we had to take down a couple of videos. Yeah, free speech in America is basically on trial right now, and I've been working behind the scenes to make sure this community stays safe. But we're back, stronger than ever. And today's video, oh, buckle up, because it's a wild one. We're talking about MAGA soybean farmers, folks. Yes, those same salt-of-the-earth, flag-waving, red hat-wearing folks who love to preach about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, turns out it's FAFO season on the farm, because these guys are about to learn what it really feels like when the leopard you voted for decides your face looks like dinner. Now here's the kicker. This isn't just some small-town FAFO story. This is bigger. This is about how American farmland, the lifeblood of rural America, is slowly being taken away, all while the very people most affected keep cheering on the guy holding the knife. MAGA farmers thought Trump's trade war with China was a genius move. They clapped. They hollered. They said, finally, someone's sticking it to Beijing. But here's the thing. China wasn't the one who blinked. China just said, okay, bet. You think you can blackmail us? Guess what? We don't actually need you like that. We'll go buy our soybeans from Brazil. And just like that, poof, the American soybean market got kneecapped. Imagine being so dedicated to your cult leader that you literally cheer for policies designed to shoot yourself in the foot. It's like standing in a burning house yelling, "This is fine," while roasting marshmallows on the flames. MAGA farmers voted to make America great again, but all they really did was make Brazil great again. Congratulations, guys. You turned your #1 customer into your competitor's best friend. Now, here's the hilarious, not funny haha, but funny, tragic part. These same farmers are now begging for help. Yep, bootstraps no longer exist, apparently. They want the government to step in and save them. They want bailouts, subsidies, assistance programs, all the things they mocked other Americans for needing. You need healthcare? Nah, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You need food stamps to survive? Nah, stop being lazy. But when it's their soybeans rotting in silos and their bank accounts running dry, suddenly the same government they hate is supposed to swoop in like Superman. It's peak irony. It's like marrying a crocodile and then acting shocked when it eats your dog. The leopard doesn't change its spots, folks. It just gets hungrier. And here's what blows my mind. A lot of these farmers still won't put the blame where it belongs. They'll blame tariffs, they'll blame the global economy, they'll even say it's God testing them. But they won't dare say out loud that their orange cult leader screwed them. because in their minds, Trump is still the Messiah, the chosen one. It's delusional loyalty at its finest. Meanwhile, their farms, their family legacies, their ancestral land are being gobbled up, sometimes literally bought out by billionaires, while they sit there crying MAGA tears on Facebook Live. And the tears, oh man, the tears are flowing. Buckets of them. You'd think they'd irrigate their soybeans with all that salt water, but nah, it's not enough to water the fields, because those fields are headed straight into foreclosure. So today, we're going to dive into the clips, look at what's actually happening to these MAGA farmers, and talk about how this all ties into the bigger picture. Because it's not just about soybeans, folks, it's about a pattern. And the funniest, saddest, most human part of it all, they're still begging the same leopard that ate their face to please be nice next time. Let's roll the clips.
American workers and American taxpayers have been taken advantage of for multi-generation, for decades. And it's time for somebody to stand up and put us first and put the country first and do what's best for the country, not what's best for the politicians.
Even if you as a farmer suffer.
That's right.
I mean, some people would hear that and be quite surprised that you're prepared to put your livelihood, your family's livelihood, on the line for the sake of politics.
Well, that's my duty as for being the head of my household. I've got to do what I got to do, what's going to be better for the future, better for the kids. It's not about today, it's about the long term. The long game is where the rewards are going to be.
But don't the price of tariffs and what happens in commodity markets like soybean, doesn't that affect you in the short term and affect your ability to provide for your family?
Look, tariffs will probably have a detrimental effect on soybean price in the near future. In the long term, it'll probably work out. I'm a farmer. I deal with bad weather. I deal with dry weather. I deal with torrential rains. We deal with hurricanes. What's a tariff going to do? You know, I got to raise a crop. If I was worried, I'd stay home and not raise a crop. If I was worried about it, I still got to get out there and raise my crop to get the price. If you don't get the yield, it doesn't make any difference. You know, I got to deal with all these other things. What's a tariff? I can't control that, so it is what it is.
You guys heard what just came out of his mouth, right? And this right here is the problem when your entire media diet is Fox News and AM radio. My man probably falls asleep to MAGA chants and Trump's bedtime stories, playing on a loop like a bad mixtape. That brain is marinated in fake news conspiracies and the wall will save us lullabies. No wonder he wakes up confused. Meanwhile, soybean farmers like him are out here drowning in the mess they voted for. And I'll show you just how bad it's gotten in a bit. But let's be real, China doesn't care. They've got options. They've got Brazil on speed dial, Argentina in the group chat, and even Africa getting in on the game. So when America puffed its chest out and slapped tariffs on, China just shrugged and said, "Cool story, bro. We'll shop somewhere else." And this farmer, standing there with a straight face, asks, "What's a tariff gonna do?" Bruh, really? It's doing exactly what we told you it would do. And then he says, "I can't control that." Yes you can. You literally punched the ballot that put the orange tariff machine in office. You don't get to act brand new now. You don't get to throw your hands up like some innocent bystander. You loaded the gun, handed it to Trump, and then stood there shocked when he shot your crops in the foot.
Hello from China. So I'm in a grocery store right now, and I wanted to show you how the American tariffs are affecting Chinese customers. So I was gonna get some beef for dinner tonight, and I saw this. So what used to be here is American beef, but now, as you can see, it says Australian beef. And I did look around. I couldn't find one single pack of beef from America. So I guess China just stopped buying beef from America, and it went straight to Australia. So the whole idea that China is hurting because of the American tariffs, well, they're not, because they're not as dependent on the US. In fact, only 18% of Chinese imports come from America. And for stuff like beef and soy, they can just go somewhere else easily. So I guess I'm having Australian beef for dinner tonight instead of American beef. And honestly, because of the food quality, I probably trust Australian beef better. And this box of beef right here is 50 RMB, which is about $7 US. So to answer the question, China ain't hurting. And if anything, I think we're probably doing even better, because now that we have better beef that tastes better and at a better price. So thank you, Trump, for that.
You are probably not ready for this information, but China has a much more effective political system that is designed to make ordinary people's lives better. You may be shocked. You may be asking how it could be more effective. Well, for one thing, in China, the rich people don't dictate government policies, unlike in some other countries. I will repeat it. The rich people, whether it's billionaires, CEOs of super successful companies in China, they are not allowed to bend the government policies to make it easier for them to pursue maximum profits at the expense of ordinary people's well-being. Strategic sectors like water, electricity, energy, and transport are under government control, not controlled by a few rich families. And that's one of the reasons many grand infrastructure projects like railways, high-speed roads, ports, dams, and public schools were built. Those projects cost so much effort, and you probably won't see any financial return in a short time. But they tremendously benefit the people and unleash the huge potential of the country. You may ask, okay, so what about the government officials? Are they clean? Well, China has made it very clear to all CPC party members and the government officials, if you hold an official position, don't expect to get rich. If you want to get rich, don't seek to hold an official position. Those corrupted officials are being investigated and punished. So what's it like in your country? Tell me in the comments.
Is fully prepared to fight to the very end, because the world is big enough that the United States is not the totality of the market in the world. So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care. China has been here for 5,000 years. Most of the time, there was no United States, and we survived. And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States. And we expect to survive for another 5,000 years.
When you hear Donald Trump say China wants a deal, it just doesn't know how to go about it. They're proud people. J.D. Vance talks about Chinese peasants. What do you make of their conduct in this respect?
If J.D. Vance thinks that he's dealing with the peasants in China, and I'm proud to be a descendant of the peasants, most of us are descendants of the peasants anyway, that's our tradition. We are farmers before. But now we are one of the leading industrialized economies in the world. So I'm sorry, J.D. Vance doesn't know what he's talking about. And therefore, I don't think there will be China-US dialogue unless the United States changes its attitude towards China. Deal with China as it is. Show respect to China. Show respect to the Chinese people. And don't try to impose your prejudice and biased view about China or about the rest of the world.
If you take a look at this map right here, you can see all the countries shaded in with blue had the United States as their #1 trading partner back in the year 2000. And then the countries shaded in red, their #1 trading partner was China. Here's how the map has changed in 24 years. In 2024, all the countries shaded in the red had their largest trading partner as China. And all the countries shaded in blue, their largest trading partner was the United States. And when we take a look at all of China's exports, the United States doesn't make up that much. So when they say that they don't care if the United States no longer purchases products from them, they mean they don't care.
If you slap me in the face, I slap you back. China will never allow any country, including the United States, to throw the rule of free trade out of the window and to be presumptuous enough to say, this is the way I do. I hold a gun at your hand, cry uncle, and kneel in front of me. No, China will never do that. Whether other countries will decide to do that, that's their choice. But China will never do that.
Do you think that President Trump misjudged China?
China's view is very clear. We will never tolerate anyone mistreating China like that, intimidating China, issuing ultimatum to China. If you slap me in the face, I slap you back. And this is exactly what's happening. Now, Chinese government also declared by imposing 125% tariff against total U.S. export to China, the U.S. products have no marketability in the Chinese market, meaning they are ready to see an end to China-U.S. trade to the China export to the United States and vice versa. That is the ultimatum China is issuing to the United States. Don't mess with me. Otherwise, I close the market for you. You will be locked out of China.
All right, can we just pause for a second and appreciate that this man speaks way better English than President Tariffs himself? I mean, clear, coherent sentences, and on top of that, he probably speaks more languages than Tariff Man could ever dream of. Meanwhile, Trump is still out here inventing new words like covfefe and calling it policy. Now, here's where the find out phase of MAGA farming begins. These folks thought they were voting to make America great, but what they really did was cast their ballot to make Brazil great. And you know what's wild? If they had just taken 5 minutes to read the news, or heck, listen to literally anyone outside their echo chamber, they could have saved themselves a whole lot of pain. But nope, they were sold the myth that Trump is some kind of master negotiator. Really? The same guy who's been bankrupt more times than you can count on one hand? The same guy whose business skills are so trash that he had to pivot to grifting with crypto bros and meme coins just to stay relevant? That's the man you thought was going to negotiate on your behalf? That's the man who supposedly cares about the American farmer? Please. The only deals this dude knows how to make are the ones that make you broke and him richer. So buckle up, because the receipts we're about to roll will have you wondering how anyone ever believed this man was cut out for anything other than reality TV. It gets wild.
Well, the Democrats were right again, and it turns out the farmers of Iowa are completely shit out of luck, specifically because they voted for Trump, okay? Because his policies have double fucked them, okay? Starting with USAID. Now, you might say, why would USAID be connected to the farmers of Iowa? Well, turns out that USAID was one of their most reliable customers. We were spending up to $2 billion every year buying soybeans from them and then shipping them overseas to feed poor, starving children. Until our Christian president got in office and he said, "What? We are sending food overseas to feed hungry children? For Christ's sake, shut that down immediately." Well, in doing that, they have now taken away the second largest, most reliable customer for the soybean farmers in Iowa. Now, who was their number one customer? Well, it used to be China. And up until recently, they were buying 60% of our soybean exports out of America. But Daddy Trump came in and jacked up these tariffs, started a trade war with China, and now these soybean farmers have lost their number one customer. So now these soy boys are sitting on a Scrooge McDuck level of soybeans with absolutely nobody to sell them to. And that is why they are begging Daddy Trump for a bailout and for him to cut the shit with China so we can get rid of these tariffs. You know, it's amazing. Trump supporters put him in office hoping that he would just ruin the lives of all the people who they hated. But they didn't realize that Trump isn't on their team. He's on Team Billionaire, not on Team Farmer or Team Trucker or Team Everyday American. He only cares about rich people.
Boy, let's talk about how Trump is screwing the farmers. I have a lot of soybean farmers who are my clients, and this is really bad news. Caleb Ragland, who's the president of the American Soybean Association. He said farmers are heading into a harvest season without a single order from China. 25% of soybean farmers' crops are usually sold to China. The prices of soybeans are down 40% because of what's happening under the Trump administration, and production costs are rising. I'm tying in the Trump administration to this. This Soybean Association president is still speaking up Donald Trump. 500,000 soybean growers in the United States exist and are being severely impacted by this. They're having to now rely on loans to get them through the season. There are 231,000 jobs associated with soybean farming, harvesting, transportation, storage, you name it. And he says the impact on the local rural community that depends on the farmer is going to be severely impacted. South American farmers, soybean farmers, are filling the gap. China is just hop skipping over the United States, and countries like Brazil have got it completely covered. No wonder Trump is attacking some of these other countries south of us.
Decades we've been told that we can't feed kids free lunch because that's socialism. We've been told that we can't give partial credit towards college scammy loans because that's socialism. We can't have universal health care. Your Nana can't get the cancer treatment that she needs because Medicare for all would be socialism. We can't feed and help the homeless because of socialism. Everything that doesn't benefit you is socialism. We've been hearing this about everything that would be good for society for decades. And the second that you need a helping hand, it's a necessary thing. It's not just, guys, this is actually good for everybody. That's why I need that money. I voted for you. You voted against me.
This is a soybean. Right now, millions of tons of these are sitting in fields just like this, with nowhere to go because of Washington's trade wars. Americans already pay 86% of the tariffs. And now, Washington's idea of a solution is to take even more of your money to bail out farmers for a problem that they created.
Has anybody figured out where our bumper crop of soybeans are going? Yeah, because this administration has messed things up so badly with China. China goes, yeah, keep your soybeans, we're good. The biggest buyer in the world of soybeans has said, don't worry about it, we're good. So why doesn't somebody tell me or tell the U.S. farmers that are bringing in all these soybeans, tell them what they're going to do with them? Somebody needs to come up with a plan and like really, really quick. Because guess what? China said, thanks, but no thanks. So where are all these soybeans going to go? Does anybody know? Does anybody care? Because I'm sure the farmers are freaking out right now because they have a bumper crop of soybeans that, nobody wants. At least China doesn't want. And China's the biggest, largest buyer. I mean, we could be selling those small countries, but it's not going to put a dent in the soybeans that we have. Is anyone going to start talking about this? Or are we just going to pretend it's not a massive, huge problem because of this administration?
Fox News just told me that he signed an executive order to put 25% on Mexico and Canada. Thank you, Daddy Trump. Suck it, Canada and Mexico. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck. Okay, hear this? He paused those tariffs, but he's threatening the EU with tariffs now. Genius. But if I'm being honest, I don't really know what the EU is. But if he's threatening it, then they deserve it. 25% on foreign steel and aluminum. He's so fucking smart. Oh my God. Oh, I love him. Today's the big day. Tariffs in place for Canada, Mexico, and China. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, 1 month exemption for US automakers. America. Freedom, America, America. Okay, change of plans. He's gonna go ahead and pause those tariffs on Canada and Mexico for 1 month, but reciprocal tariffs are coming April 2nd. That's the way he does it. He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. The EU thinks it can threaten us with tariffs. Yeah, so he threatened a 200% tariff on alcohol. Yeah, okay. Oh, okay. Now I'll just stick to the Bush Light anyway. Doesn't fucking matter. He announced his reciprocal tariffs. I wonder where he got those numbers. Awesome. Who cares where he got the numbers? It's chess, not checkers. 5D chess, that's what he's playing. Jesus Christ. And they're done. And they're done. The reciprocal tariffs are done. 150% on China. Okay. 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 Cool. Fuck. I didn't need that shit from Shein anyway.
America's soybean farmers are in a world of hurt. They're going to lose their farms and their livelihoods, and they did it to themselves. And now they are begging, pleading, oh, help us. We punished ourselves because we thought Donald Trump was only going to hurt the right people, not us. We thought Donald Trump was going to hurt women and black people and Latinos and immigrants. and the homeless and LGBTQ. We never thought Donald Trump would hurt us, even though Donald Trump told us on the campaign trail that he was going to raise tariffs, even though Project 2025 explicitly lays out the tariff plan and the plan to bankrupt soybean farmers all across America so that they can buy their land for cheap. Oh, yeah. And Vice President J.D. Vance owns part of an app to help buy up the bankrupt land. Come on, get real. You were either willfully ignorant, dumb, or both, America's soybean farmers. What I don't hear is contrition. I don't hear the man who was on MSNBC this morning, Scott Brown from Arkansas, soybean farmer, who's going to lose it all. I didn't hear him say, I made a mistake. I didn't hear him say, really, I knew, but I just thought it would turn out different because. He didn't say, I'm going to do something different now. He didn't say, I'm going to vote against Trump. He didn't say he was even going to start voting in his own self-interest. He's just begging for a bailout because that's what we've been doing for 100 plus years in America is bailing out our farmers. They don't deserve it. They don't need it. They can live with their decision. They can also come to the right side and they can admit that they made a mistake and they can admit that racism is expensive and they can admit that they're not going to be racist and bigots anymore and that they're going to put not just their self-interest, but everybody's self-interest ahead of Donald Trump's and MAGA's and Heritage Foundation's. But can they do it? Will they do it? Because the rest of us are waiting for them. We are here, open and willing for them to take the right step and to show their humanity. No fear, only love.
One of MAGA's biggest problems, and I've said this before, is false religious programming. They've been trained to look at the Bible, twist the meaning, and swallow whatever misinterpretation gets fed to them by the people who profit off their ignorance. Take that first guy we heard talking about tariffs. He said it was his duty as a father, as the head of his family, to support tariffs. Excuse me, hello? Doesn't the Bible literally say your duty is to leave an inheritance to your children's children? Because the only inheritance he's leaving right now is debt and foreclosure notices. That farm is as good as gone. But I can almost bet you my last dollar that this same man goes to an evangelical church where the pastor tells him not to worry about earthly things. Meanwhile, that pastor is living in a multi-million-dollar mansion, drives luxury cars, and probably has a private jet parked on standby. Only in America do you find the poor and middle class fighting tooth and nail to stay poor, all while being lied to that this life doesn't matter because we're just passing through. And so they don't take anything seriously. They don't weigh the consequences of their actions on themselves, on their kids, or on their communities. Instead, they're told, just pray about it. Trust the Lord no matter what. Listen, the Lord gave you a brain. Maybe use it. Because if you actually crack open the scriptures, it's the complete opposite of what MAGA claims to believe. Jesus went after the Pharisees for this exact nonsense. He said their man-made traditions and customs were choking out the work of God. They oppressed the poor, obsessed over pointing fingers, made strict rules for everyone else, yet they themselves were still under the thumb of the Roman Empire. That's MAGA to a T. Loud, judgmental, self-righteous, but blind to the fact that they're the ones getting played the hardest. Take a look at this next clip, because it lays this hypocrisy bare.
So there's an old joke about a guy who's got a pet snake. He's raised the snake, he loves the snake, and one day he lies down to take a nap with the snake, and when he wakes up, the snake has him in his coils ready to eat him. He wakes up baffled, looks at the snake, and says, "How could you do this?" And the snake smiles, winks at him, and says, "Well, hey, I'm still a snake." And unfortunately, this is kind of where diehard MAGA Christians seem to be right now. They're in the middle of this joke. Trump is their savior to bring Christian morality back to the United States of America, but here's why I think they're doomed for one of two things. It's either going to be abandoning the biblical faith that they equate with salvation, or they're going to become a victim of the persecution that they often fantasize about, except they're not going to be persecuted by their, quote, enemy. It's going to be probably by other people claiming to be Christian as well. Now, one of the things we need to keep in mind is that biblically, when we look at the story of Israel, there's a theme, and that theme is that the nation follows the leader. So a faithful leader produces a faithful Israel, an unfaithful leader produces an unfaithful Israel, and ultimately the result of following too many unfaithful leaders is what led to Israel's ruin. So putting trust in Trump to lead the nation to a Christian value in this kind of a light is kind of laughable. 1 John has some very good measures to attend to in assessing this comment that I'm making. One of them is whoever claims they have no sin is a liar and the truth is not in them. Well, Trump is actually on camera live saying that he hasn't ever asked for forgiveness because he's never done anything that he feels need to be forgiven of. And that's a warning sign. Now, some other paraphrases of 1 John. Those who love are born of God, and they are loving because God is love. Those who do not love are born of the devil. Those who do what is right are born of God. Those who do what is wrong are born of the devil. And then also, anyone who claims to love God but hates their neighbor is a liar. So just on the love front, I'm just going to point out Trump's social media posts. That's all the further we have to go. They're filled with hate. They're filled with a vengeful spirit, a divisive spirit. Proverbs 6 says that God hates any person who is stirring up trouble among the people. And when we look at them, love is nowhere near them. In terms of what is doing what is right in God's sight, the past, the present are littered with lies, adultery, sexual assault, greed, arrogance, many other things that are the absolute antithesis of Christian. And so his words and his attitudes defy any passive or superficial comments that are just made to appease a Christian voter base. Like Israel, as the leader goes, so goes the nation. So his aggressive, intimidating attitudes and behavior demonstrate a lack of Christ-centered grace and compassion. Lives are expendable, the needy are expendable, the vulnerable are attackable and expendable. Those who claim to follow Christ and continue to buy into this over and over again, to these attitudes that are in direct conflict with Jesus, are following into the trap of Israel. Claiming to follow Jesus and allowing their perspective to be warped by politics and personal agendas, they are led to a false Jesus wrapped in a flag and many empty promises. And this is the first trap, leaving the faith of the authentic Jesus of Scripture for the political, falsely patriotic faith prescribed by a party not called by a Redeemer. Now, the second trap is assuming that the cause of Christ is of any import to the governing powers at hand. That cause is pleaded so long as it is useful to garner power. Once it's no longer useful, it's going to be rejected along with those who belong to it. So if we've seen anything, it is that anyone, any company, any group that isn't loyal to the administration's line and agenda is the enemy. They get under attack, and even if the attack is challenged legally, the damage is done before any movement can happen. So congratulations. The moment your own Christian values are at odds with the government's message, their agenda, you're no longer protected. You become the enemy. We've seen attacks already on the Lutherans and the Catholics for daring to present Christ-like sentiments that don't line up with Trump's agenda. Now, the more enemies are kicked to the curb and targeted, the more Christianity will be, as well as faithful men and women stand strong against politics and policies that go against that gospel. So if you decide to reclaim your faith, you're going to be among them. Your own people who haven't come to their spiritual senses and claim Christ in the middle of un-Christ values are going to be your persecutors. Not the atheist, not the Muslim, not the foreigner, your very own that look like you and claim to believe like you. This is where the faith goes in the climate we're seeing presently. Now, if you wonder how correct I am biblically, think about this. The reason Jesus went to the cross was because his values and understanding of God ran against the powers that were ruling over the people. In Scripture, many were his own people. So to quote Jesus, what good is it to gain the whole world if you lose your soul?
I know that might sound like a lot of faith talk for some of you. And I get it. My audience is all over the map belief-wise, and that's okay. I've said it before, I'm not here to convert anyone. What I'm trying to do is use the language and stories people already care about, faith, family, duty, to point out how the choices we make now shape what comes next. That's the thread tying everything we've been watching together. We're not just talking religion here. We're talking consequences. The VP and his pals buying up farmland isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a pattern we can observe. Land and resources consolidating into fewer hands. If you combine that consolidation with trade policies that weren't fully thought through and a consistent erosion of local safety nets, you've set up a scenario where the average American, whether farmer, nurse, teacher, or retail worker, is more vulnerable than they were a decade ago. And what's worse, the people who cheered those policies are often the ones feeling the consequences first. Now, imagine 5 years from now. Food supplies tightly controlled by a handful of corporations. Prices set by players who answer to shareholders in another country. And a bureaucracy that decides who's deserving of assistance and who isn't. Sounds dystopian? Maybe. But dystopia is just reality moved a little closer. People used to joke that conspiracy meant something outlandish. Now we know Project 2025 and other plans that people once dismissed as fantasy actually had blueprints circulating. That's the lesson. Don't be surprised when the hypothetical becomes the headline. And then there's surveillance. The idea that tech will be used to track, score, and decide who gets access to resources sounds like sci-fi. But we have to be honest. Some wealthy investors and companies are funding technologies that make large-scale surveillance possible. Whether it's targeted advertising, location tracking, facial recognition, or the data marketplaces running in the background, the infrastructure for a detailed digital footprint already exists. That footprint, if weaponized, could be used to gatekeep access to services. That's not an abstract fear. It's the natural endpoint of a system where profit and control are priorities over equity and privacy. Here's the point I really want to make. When we talk about these problems, it's easy to get angry at the other side. But the real choice is between two paths. Continue letting elites divide us while they consolidate power, or find ways to come together and protect common goods, healthcare, education, fair markets, and democratic oversight of tech. The us versus them narrative is literally the tool the elites use to keep us from noticing they're grabbing more power. If everyone's distracted arguing about culture war headlines, nobody's reading the fine print in the legislation that shapes the next decade. So what does any of this have to do with faith, values, and the discussion we had earlier? Everything. Faith at its best asks us to love our neighbor, be honest stewards of what we're given, and build communities where the vulnerable are protected. If your religion teaches you to love the poor, to feed the hungry, to protect widows and orphans, and yet your political choices hollow out those systems, then you're not following that teaching. You're following an ideology that says obedience to a leader or a brand is more important than the common good. I want us to be sober-minded about this. We need to be vigilant about psyops and any tactics designed to confuse, distract, or divide us. That means questioning messages that pull our attention away from structural problems, and calling out when religious language is being used to justify policies that harm our neighbors. Woke used to mean aware, awake to injustice. That's the version of being woke I want us to reclaim. Awareness, compassion, and action. Practical steps? Small ones matter. Talk to the people in your life, not to win an argument, but to listen. When your family talks about politics at the dinner table, try to ground the conversation in real outcomes. Who gains, who loses, and why. Educate yourself about policy basics. Tariffs, trade, corporate consolidation. Because the more you understand, the less you can be gaslit. Support local journalism and independent reporting that actually reads the legislation and explains the likely consequences. And yes, vote. Not as an act of tribal loyalty, but as a civic responsibility to protect institutions and the common good. I'll be honest, this isn't comfortable. It's easier to say, trust the leader, trust the plan, than to parse economic reports or call out a pastor's hypocrisy. It's easier to cheer a simple slogan than to work on the messy, slow business of building community. But here's the truth. If we want a future where kids inherit farms and communities thrive, we have to trade easy narratives for hard work. We have to hold leaders accountable, demand transparency, and insist that technology and policy serve people, not the other way around. So tell me, what do you think? Have you seen this pattern in your own town, your own church, your own family? How are folks talking about these issues where you live? Drop your thoughts below. I want this to be a conversation, not a lecture. We've got a long road ahead, but we don't have to walk it alone. I love you all, and as always, like, share, and subscribe if you want to keep digging into these things with me. Catch you next time.